Please be seated. The title of my message this morning is The Spiritual Encounter, taken from the Hebrew Scriptures, reading this morning from Exodus, and the verse that reads, "The angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of a bush." Human history is full of encounters with God and the holy. What are we to make of these encounters with the divine? Experiences of God and the holy always include several features. First, they are difficult to explain. People have a hard time describing them. One woman who wrote a book about her experience spent the entire book writing about her life leading up to that moment. She even describes in great detail what happened the night before and the morning. And then she gets to the moment when her encounter with the divine happens, and she can barely put it into words. She vaguely stated that she felt a connection with something greater. She could not, however, describe exactly what it was about that sunrise that she saw that was so different from a billion other sunrises. Spiritual encounters are difficult to put into words. They are also short-lived. A woman told me about an experience she had while watching her children play in the ocean. It lasted only moments. Some experiences last longer, but typically no more than a minute or two. They also involve a kind of passivity. We cannot make spiritual encounters happen. They happen to us. We cannot predict when these experiences may occur. One person I know was standing outside on a summer evening, quietly listening to the crickets in the woods, when he heard a voice speak to him. He turned around, looked, there was no voice there, there was no one there. But it happened. It just happened. In spite of their ineffability, brevity, and passivity, these experiences include a sense of knowing. People are convinced they happened, they are real, they exist, they are authentic, and they produce a way of looking at the world or giving new purpose to life. We can see each of these features in Moses' encounter at the burning bush. What happened was not described all that well. Moses was tending sheep. He saw a burning bush. A voice speaks from the bush. I want to know more. What kind of bush? How big was the bush? What about the voice? What kind of voice was it? What did the angel look like? How did the angel switch from the angel to God? We don't know. Doesn't explain. His encounter was also brief. It lasted only a few minutes. It didn't last all night. It didn't last for day after day. It didn't even last an hour. A couple minutes, maybe. Moses didn't seek it out either. Moses had a comfortable life. He was married and had a couple of children. All Moses was concerned with was his happy life in Midian. The story gives us no indication that he was in some sort of spiritual crisis. Moses really did not concern himself about God either. We don't hear him praying. We don't hear him lamenting about his days in Egypt. Moses is out tending the sheep. The angel of the Lord came to him. God drew Moses to him. God acted, not Moses. Moses was passive. He was, however, convinced it happened. His description was matter of fact. He believed it was real and authentic. He learned from it as well, which is the most important part. Moses' spiritual encounter changes his mindset. Without it, he would never have left Midian. He would have remained a shepherd, maybe becoming a Midian priest like his father-in-law. But he would not have returned to Egypt. The burning bush encounter sent him back to Egypt. Because of his encounter, he became the leader of the Israelites. Spiritual encounters like the one Moses had are not rare. Similar stories fill the Bible. Here's something else that's interesting. In a recent survey, about half of Americans said that they had had a spiritual experience. Many of you may have already had such an experience. If not, know this. Researchers have also discovered that regular practice of prayer and spiritual devotions seem to increase the likelihood that these may happen. They don't predict when or how and in what context, but just that those who pray more frequently, those who have more spiritual practices, seem to have these experiences more often. In light of the common elements of these spiritual encounters and the change they may cause in people, what should we do? Well, here's where Moses is a model for us. Moses went into action. He left Midian and headed to Egypt. His divine encounter sent him into action. Spiritual encounters cause spiritual growth. They send people into new directions. They make life more rich and meaningful. Notice, too, that God built on Moses' past instead of ignoring it. God worked within Moses' life experiences. If God didn't care about his past, he would have had Moses simply stay in Midian. But Moses returned to Egypt, the place where he had killed someone. God sent him back to free the people of Egypt, to go and demand the freedom of his people from the boy, the man he grew up with. If God can work with Moses to build on his past, then he can do the same with us. God can build on our past to make good happen. God can use all of our past, both the good and the bad, to make something new. After we encounter God and the holy, we are sent forth to create good in the world. We are called to discover new ways to bring hope and love to the world. Our mission becomes God's mission. And with God's help, we can do anything.